My wife Carol died on a Tuesday in October, 9 months before the night everything fell apart. She went quietly, the way she did everything, no fuss, no drama, just a long exhale, and then nothing. We'd been married 38 years. I held her hand until it went cold, and for 9 months after that I carried the weight of it like a stone inside my chest that I couldn't put down. My daughter Diana organized the retirement party. 35 years as a school principal in Savannah, and she said I deserved a proper send-off. She booked the upstairs hall at the old pink house on Abercorn Street, the kind of beautiful old building Carol had always loved, with candlelight on exposed brick and Spanish moss pressing its face against the tall windows. 62 guests. Former students, colleagues, neighbors who'd known me since my hair was still dark. Diana had even managed to track down Coach Raymond, who retired 15 years ago and drove in from Augusta for the occasion. I remember thinking, standing there in the middle of all of it with a glass of sweet tea in my hand, that Carol would have been furious she was missing this. That was exactly the kind of thing she would have said, and thinking it made me smile and ache at the same time. That's when my granddaughter Maya appeared at my side. She was 12 years old and she looked like she was about to be sick. Grandpa. Her fingers closed around my forearm. Good. Small fingers, her mother's hands. We need to go to your car. Right now. It's important. I looked down at her. She was pale under the party lights, her eyes too bright, the way a child's eyes get when they've been holding something in for too long. Maya, sweetheart, what's wrong? Are you... Please. She dropped her voice to barely a whisper. Please don't ask me here. Just come. I set my glass on the nearest table and followed her. We passed the buffet, past my old assistant principal Margaret, who called something cheerful after me, past the bar where my son-in-law Trevor stood with 2 other men, laughing at something on his phone. He saw us go. His eyes tracked Maya for just a moment, a quick flicker of something I couldn't read, and then he laughed again and looked away. The parking lot behind the building was quiet. Warm night air off the river, the smell of magnolia and distant fry grease from the restaurants on the square. Maya led me to my Buick and climbed in the passenger side the moment I unlocked it. I got in behind the wheel. Before I could say a word, she reached over and pressed the lock button. 4 solid clicks. Maya, I'm sorry, Grandpa. Her voice was shaking. I'm so sorry. I need you to hear something, and I need you to not say anything until it's done. Okay? Can you do that? I studied her face in the dark. 12 years old. The bravest 12-year-old I'd ever seen. Okay, I said. She pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over the screen. I noticed that her hand wasn't steady. I went to get my jacket from Mom's car earlier, before the party started. They were behind the car talking. They didn't hear me come out. She swallowed. I started recording because something felt wrong. Grandpa, something is very, very wrong. She pressed play. The audio was muffled at first wind, distant traffic, the click of heels on pavement. Then Diana's voice came through, and something cold moved through me that had nothing to do with the night air. My daughter's voice. The same voice that called me every Sunday. The same voice that said, I love you, Daddy, when she hung up. Every single time, for as long as I could remember. Talking about me the way you talk about a problem you've already decided how to solve. Reese said the paperwork's ready. All of it. We just need the assessment tonight. Trevor. And Nguyen's going to cooperate? Because if she flakes on us, she's been paid. She won't flake. Diana sounded impatient. Efficient. She's done this 6 times for Reese's other clients. She knows exactly what to document. Your dad doesn't seem confused. He's going to push back on any cognitive. That's what the lorazepam is for. A pause. 0.5 milligram in his coffee. He'll be slow. Unfocused. She'll note impaired processing, difficulty tracking conversation, evidence of confusion consistent with early-stage decline. That's all she needs. Maya made a small sound beside me. I reached over without thinking and put my hand over hers. The house, Trevor said. You sure on the appraisal? $580,000. We close within 45 days once guardianship is established. Reese has a buyer ready. A sound like she was checking something on her phone. Add the insurance payout from Mom's policy and the IRAs. We're looking at just under $900,000 total. $900,000. 38 years of a life my wife and I built together. The house where we raised Diana, where Carol planted her rose garden along the back fence, where I painted the porch myself 3 times because Carol kept changing her mind about the color and I never once minded. "What about Maya?" Trevor asked. "She's staying with her grandmother this weekend. She doesn't know anything." But she did know. The girl sitting beside me, gripping my hand in the dark, had known for however long it had taken her to walk from that parking lot back inside and spend the whole start of my retirement party waiting for the right moment. The recording ended. I don't know exactly how long I sat there. Long enough that the music from upstairs became something I was listening to from very far away. "Grandpa." Maya's voice was barely audible. "I don't understand everything they said, but I know it was bad. I know they want to take you somewhere. You did the right thing." I heard myself say it and was surprised how steady my voice was. "Maya, you did exactly the right thing. None of this is your fault. She's my mom." Her voice broke on it. Just those 3 words, and they held everything, love and horror, and a 12-year-old girl trying to understand how both things could be true at the same time. "I know." I squeezed her hand. "I know she is." I dialed 901. The dispatcher was calm and methodical in the way good dispatchers always are. I told her my name. I told her my location. I told her that my daughter and son-in-law were planning to drug me at my own retirement party in order to have me falsely declared incompetent and committed to a memory care facility. I told her my granddaughter had recorded the conversation. "Sir, are you currently in a safe location?" "In my car. In the parking lot. Officers are being dispatched now. Estimated arrival, 12 minutes. Can you maintain visual contact with the individuals involved without approaching them?" Through the windshield, I could see the warm glow of the old pink house windows above us. Somewhere up there, Diana was playing the devoted daughter at my retirement party, and Trevor was laughing with my colleagues, and a doctor named Patricia Nguyen was waiting to destroy the rest of my life on someone else's schedule. "I can," I said. "Do not confront them directly. Officers will make contact. Is there anyone else at the venue who could be in danger?" "No, just me. Stay on the line if you're able." I turned to Maya. She was watching me with those 2 bright eyes. "We're going back inside," I said. "The police said. I'm not sitting in this parking lot while your mother puts drugs in my coffee." I reached over and pushed the door open. "We go back in. We stay calm. We stay close to other people. You don't leave my side. Can you do that?" She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Nodded. "You're the bravest person I know," I told her. "I mean that." Walking back into that party was like stepping through a wall. The warmth and the noise and the good-natured congratulations hit me all at once, and I had to keep my face arranged around a smile that I didn't feel. Diana spotted us immediately. "Dad, I was wondering where you 2 disappeared to." She came toward us, smiling, her arm already reaching for my shoulder. "Are you okay? You look a little pale." "We got some air." I watched her eyes. "Long day." That's exactly what I was thinking. "You need something to drink." She guided me toward the side table. "I had the kitchen make a special coffee for you. You always say the regular stuff at events tastes like dishwater." She laughed, that familiar laugh, and it landed in my chest like a splinter. "I'm okay for now." I patted her hand. "Let me say hello to Coach Raymond first." I felt her hesitate for just a fraction of a second. "Of course. He's been asking about you." I moved away. Maya stayed beside me so close I could feel the warmth off her arm. As we crossed the room, I scanned every face, looking for the ones that didn't fit. 2 men near the windows holding drinks they weren't touching. A woman near the hallway entrance who was watching the room the way a person watches a room when they're working, not celebrating. They were already inside. Trevor found me 10 minutes later. He had a ceramic mug in his hand, and he pressed it toward me with both hands like an offering. "Diana wanted me to bring this over. The kitchen made it fresh. That's kind of her." I didn't take it. "Set it on the table? I'll get to it." Something shifted in his expression, just a flicker. "She went to a lot of trouble to have them make it." "I'll get to it," I said again. He set the mug on the table. Maya drifted sideways, and before Trevor could say another word, she picked it up, said, "I'll keep it warm for you," and carried it across the room. I watched her take it to the woman near the hallway entrance. Watched the silent exchange. The mug disappeared. Trevor saw it too. He went very still beside me. Across the room, Diana appeared with a woman I didn't recognize. 50s, white coat over her party clothes, medical bag over her shoulder. She was smiling the way a professional smiles when they've been paid to smile. Diana was steering her toward me with a hand at her elbow. "Dad." I want you to meet Dr. Nguyen. She and I go to the same book club. Can you believe that? She heard it was your retirement and wanted to say congratulations. Diana's voice was so smooth, so warm, so entirely her. She's a geriatric specialist. And I mentioned that you've had some headaches lately, and she offered to just do a quick, Diana. I said her name quietly. Not angry, not cruel, just her name. Said the way I used to say it when she was 16, and I'd already figured out what she'd done before she tried to explain it. She stopped. I'm not going to take a cognitive assessment at my own retirement party. I kept my voice low enough that only the three of us could hear. I don't have headaches, and I know what lorazepam is. Her face did something complicated. Dr. Nguyen took a small step backward. Dad, I don't know what you... Clifford Reese, I said. Magnolia Crest. The buyer Reese has standing by for the house. All the warmth drained out of her face. Maya told you. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Maya saved me. I held her gaze. I had practiced being a principal for 35 years, and there was a particular look I had learned to give, not hard, not contemptuous, just certain, impossible to argue with, a look that said, I know exactly what I know. I called the police from the parking lot. They've been inside for 20 minutes. Trevor shoved past Diana. We need to leave. He grabbed her arm. Right now, Diana, nobody move. The voice came from my left, steady, authoritative. The woman who'd taken the coffee mug had her badge out. Savannah PD. Trevor Kelton, please step away from your wife. Diana Kelton, keep your hands where I can see them. Doctor, Patricia Nguyen, a second officer, appeared from the hallway. You're being detained pending investigation. The room went still the way rooms go still when something real interrupts everything ordinary. Coach Raymond froze mid-sentence across the room. Margaret set her fork down so slowly it didn't make a sound. 62 people held their breath. Diana turned to look at me. I had known her for 38 years. I had coached her through algebra and first heartbreaks and the end of her first marriage. I had walked her down the aisle. I looked at her now and tried to find the part of her face that I recognized. And I found it. And that was the worst part of the whole night, that I could still see her in there. Where is it? The lead detective, a compact man named Garza, had Trevor's jacket open. His gloved hand came out of the inside pocket with a small prescription bottle. He read the label, lorazepam, not prescribed to Mr. Kelton. He set it on the table beside him. Trevor said nothing. His jaw was tight, his eyes on a point somewhere above everyone's heads. Dad. Diana's voice cracked. Dad, please listen to me. You've been alone for 9 months. You're not taking care of yourself. The house is too big. I needed my daughter. I said it without raising my voice. Not this. A small sound came from behind me. Maya. She was standing alone near the buffet table, arms wrapped around herself, watching her mother with an expression that no child should have to wear. Diana looked at her. And even then, even in that moment, I watched her calculate. I watched her decide. You should have stayed out of it, Diana said to her daughter. Maya's chin went up. 12 years old. You were going to hurt Grandpa. Trevor Kelton. Detective Garza's voice cut through whatever Diana was about to say. You're under arrest. Diana Kelton. You're under arrest. Charges include conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse, criminal administration of a controlled substance, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The room behind me had become very loud and very quiet at the same time. I heard Margaret start to cry. I heard Coach Raymond say something I couldn't make out. I heard the handcuffs and then Diana's voice saying my name, still saying my name as they walked her out, all the way through the door and down the stairs and out of the old pink house and into the blue and red light of the Savannah night. I stood very still. Then Maya was beside me, and I put my arm around her shoulders, and she leaned against my side, and we stood like that until Detective Garza came back for us. It was close to midnight when we finished giving our statements at the station. Maya sat beside me the whole time, composed in the way children are composed when they're running on empty and don't know it yet. She answered every question directly. She played the recording twice more when asked. She did not cry. Detective Garza slid a folder across the desk. Your daughter and son-in-law weren't operating independently, he said. They found Clifford Reese through an online network. He runs a company called Serenity Transition Partners out of an office in Hilton Head. The website calls it Senior Living Consultation. He opened the folder. In practice, it's a referral service for families looking to seize control of elderly relatives' assets. He connects them with compromised medical professionals, probate attorneys who specialize in fast-tracked emergency guardianships, and facilities willing to admit patients on fraudulent assessments. I looked at the documents, emails, invoices, a rate sheet, full service package, it read at the top, and below it a list of services and fees the way you'd see on a menu at a restaurant. How many families? I asked. In Savannah and the surrounding area, 18 confirmed cases. We believe there are more. He spread photographs across the desk. 8 faces, men and women ranging from their early 70s to their late 80s. Below each photograph, a facility name and a date. Maya leaned forward. She studied the photographs for a long time without speaking. Then she said, "Are they still there? In those places?" "Most of them, yes." She looked up at me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Child Protective Services granted me temporary guardianship of Maya that night, given the circumstances. We drove home in the early morning dark, past the squares with their old oaks draped in moss, past the river reflecting the last of the city lights. She fell asleep in the passenger seat before we reached the house. Her head tilted toward the window, her hands loose in her lap. I sat in the driveway for a while after I turned the engine off, listening to the quiet. Carol had always said that the hardest thing about being a parent wasn't the failures. It was the moments when you realized your child had become someone you hadn't raised them to be, and you had to figure out how to hold that truth without letting it take everything else with it. She'd been talking about Diana, even then, in an abstract way. She'd seen something in Diana's marriage to Trevor that worried her. She'd never told me directly. That was also very much Carol. I thought, sitting there in the driveway, that she would have known what to say to Maya, that she always knew what to say. I got out of the car and carried my granddaughter inside. 3 days later, Detective Garza called with an address. Harold Webb, age 79, retired United States Navy captain, formerly of Bluffton, South Carolina. 11 months at Magnolia Crest Memory Care in Pooler, Georgia. I went to see him on a Thursday afternoon. Maya came with me, carrying a chess set she'd brought from home without telling me why. Magnolia Crest was a clean facility. That was the most charitable thing I could say about it. Everything worked, everything was sanitized, the staff were professional and unremarkable. Harold Webb's room was on the second floor with a window that looked out over an employee parking lot. He was sitting at a small desk when we came in, working through a Navy chart of some kind. Pencil marks precise and careful. He had the posture of a man who'd spent 40 years on ships and hadn't unlearned it. White-haired, sharp-eyed, the kind of face that made you straighten up automatically. He looked at us with the wariness of a man who'd learned not to trust surprises. "Captain Webb," I said, "my name is Frank Morrison. Detective Garza gave me your information. I was placed in a situation very similar to yours a few days ago. I'm here because I wanted to meet you." He studied me for a long moment. Then he looked at Maya, at the chess set she was holding. "You play?" he asked her. "My grandpa taught me." She set it on the corner of his desk. "I'm not very good yet." "Pull that chair over," he said. We stayed 2 hours. Harold Webb had been a systems analyst aboard naval vessels before teaching at the Citadel for 16 years after retirement. His son, a real estate attorney named Davis, had hired Clifford Reese's company 4 months before Harold's episode at a family dinner, an episode Harold described as drinking 1 glass of wine, feeling suddenly off balance and confused, and waking up the next morning to find his son had filed for emergency guardianship overnight. "I filed objections from in here," Harold said. He had a stack of papers on his desk that looked like it had been organized and reorganized many times. Wrote to the ombudsman. Filed complaints. "I have legal standing to contest the guardianship theoretically, but Davis controls my finances, so I can't pay an independent attorney." He said it without self-pity, just reporting. "I'm in a facility I don't need, at a cost of $6,000 a month drawn from my own accounts, and my son has liquidated my investment portfolio on the grounds that it requires professional management." He glanced at Maya, who was quietly setting up the chessboard, giving us the privacy of half her attention. "I spent 40 years on ships," he said more quietly. "I navigated through weather that would curl your hair, and I couldn't navigate my way out of my own son's living room." He paused. "How did you get out?" My granddaughter, I said. He looked at Maya again. She moved upon. Your move, Captain, she said. The legal work took 4 months. Jennifer Marsh, an elder law attorney Maya had found by searching online at 11 o'clock one night, she'd actually come to my home office to show me. Took Harold's case pro bono after reviewing the documentation. Detective Garza's team had assembled. An independent neurologist evaluated Harold and produced a report that was brisk and definitive. No cognitive impairment of any kind. The original assessment, produced by a psychologist in Clifford Reese's network, was fraudulent from the first sentence. The guardianship was reversed in October. I drove to Magnolia Crest the morning Harold was discharged and watched him walk out the front door in his navy cap and a blazer, carrying one bag and his stack of papers, looking at the parking lot and the sky beyond it, like a man who'd been given something back that he hadn't been sure he'd see again. He shook my hand in the parking lot for a long time without speaking. Then he said, "How many others?" 7 still active cases, 3 more in the pipeline. He nodded once. Well, let's get to work. The trial began the following March. Federal conspiracy charges, state elder abuse and fraud, criminal administration of a controlled substance. Clifford Reese, Diana Kelton, Trevor Kelton, and Dr. Patricia Nguyen tried together before a judge who had been notably unimpressed with defense attorneys from the first day. Maya testified. She was 13 by then, and she sat in the witness box with both feet flat on the floor and answered every question in a clear, measured voice. She identified the recording. She explained where she'd been standing, what she'd heard before she started recording, what she had done next. Defense counsel tried twice to suggest that a 13-year-old couldn't have understood what she was hearing, and twice she corrected them quietly but without hesitation. After she stepped down, Harold Webb caught her eye from the gallery and gave her a single nod. She nodded back. Judge Warren Holloway was 66 years old and had the manner of a man who had heard a great many things and was tired of hearing them dressed up as something else. He sentenced Clifford Reese to 22 years in federal prison for operating a criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable adults. He noted that Reese would be 81 years old at the time of his earliest possible release, roughly the age of several of his victims when they were committed. Dr. Patricia Nguyen received 8 years, her medical license permanently revoked. Trevor Kelton received 14 years, parole eligibility after 9. Diana received 16 years, parole eligibility after 10. She looked at me when the sentence was read. I looked back at her. I had spent months trying to prepare myself for that moment, and when it came I found I was mostly just tired. She did not look at Maya. Maya looked at her. I watched my granddaughter look at her mother one more time, and I watched her face do the work that a 13-year-old face shouldn't have to do. And then she set her jaw and looked at her hands in her lap, and that was that. Outside the courthouse, Harold Webb stood beside us in the afternoon light. He'd brought his wife Margaret, newly released from Sweetgrass Senior Living in Beaufort 2 months earlier, a sharp-tongued 74-year-old woman who had greeted Maya on their first meeting by saying, "So you're the one. Good." Margaret held Harold's arm now, looking out at the street with the air of a woman who had made significant plans for the remainder of her life and intended to keep every one of them. "What are you going to do now?" Harold asked me. I'd had 9 months to think about the answer. Carol and I had talked, in her last year, about what we would do when I retired. She wanted to travel. Italy, she said, particularly because her grandmother had been from a small town outside Genoa, and she'd always meant to find it. We never got there. I'd been keeping the idea in a drawer in my mind ever since October, not sure whether it was a plan or just a way of staying close to her. I decided, sometime in the middle of the trial, that it was both, and that those things were not contradictory. But first, we're starting a foundation, I said. Maya named it Carol's Light. Harold raised an eyebrow. After your wife. She would have been angry about all of this. I looked out at the street. She had a very low tolerance for people being treated as less than they were. She would have wanted to do something about it. So, Harold was quiet for a moment. Then, I'd like to be involved, if you'll have me. I was hoping you'd say that. Margaret, who had been appearing to watch something across the street, said without turning her head, "You were going to ask him whether he said it or not, Frank. Don't make it sound like a coincidence." Harold coughed. Maya laughed a real laugh, the uncomplicated kind, the kind I hadn't heard from her often enough in the past year. I put my arm around her shoulders and felt her lean into me the way she had that night in the old pink house. And above us, the Georgia sky was the particular shade of blue that only happens in spring in Savannah, the kind of blue Carol used to point out to me from the back porch when the roses were coming in, and I held my granddaughter and let myself stand still in it for a moment. Carol's Light Foundation opened its doors 4 months later in a rented office on Jones Street, 2 blocks from the house. Maya came in after school twice a week to help maintain the intake database she'd built, color-coded by case status, updated in real time, a system frankly more organized than anything we had in my 35 years of school administration. Harold ran our advisory board. Jennifer Marsh handled the legal referrals. We had 6 volunteer attorneys by the end of the first month. 12 cases resolved in our first year. 12 people returned to the lives that had been taken from them. Some went home to houses still standing. Some went home to discover their savings gone and their children's numbers disconnected. Some had no home to return to and needed help finding something new. Not every story ended the way Harold's did. The system had too many gaps for every story to end that way. But we learned to find the gaps and put ourselves in them, and that was something. Maya turned 14 that fall. She told me, sitting at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning over pancakes, that she was thinking about studying elder law. Or maybe child advocacy, she said. I haven't decided. You've got time. I know. She turned her fork over in her hand. Dad sends letters. I waited. I don't read them. She said it carefully, not dismissively. The way you say something you've thought about rather than just felt. Not yet. Maybe someday. She looked up at me. Is that okay? That's entirely up to you. She nodded slowly. Grandma Carol would have known what to do with them. She always knew things like that. She did, I said. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then, she would have liked that we named the foundation after her. Would have pretended to be embarrassed about it, I said. But yes, Maya smiled. It was the kind of smile that had grief and warmth both in it, the kind you only learn to wear after something has broken and come back together differently than it was before. I recognized it because I'd been wearing the same one for over a year. Outside the kitchen window, the roses were coming in along the back fence. I'd pruned them badly last fall because I hadn't known what I was doing. And Carol would have had things to say about that. But they'd come back anyway. Roses are stubborn, she always said. They don't need you to do it perfectly. They just need you to try. If you've stayed with me this long, I want to say something directly to you. I was 64 years old. I had spent 35 years educating other people's children. I owned my home. I managed my own finances. I drove myself to my own doctor's appointments and remembered all of them. I was sharp and I was capable and I was, above all, still here. 64 is not old. 74 is not helpless. 84 is not a problem to be solved. But there are people who see age as an opportunity, who look at the grief of losing a spouse and see a window, who understand that trust is a door and will walk through it the moment it opens. Watch for the sudden conversations about your finances. Watch for someone wanting to help you update your paperwork. Watch for a new level of interest in how sharp you seem, how well you're sleeping, whether you've been forgetting things. These are not always signs of concern. Sometimes they are the beginning of something that nearly cost me everything. If I hadn't had Maya, I would be in a room somewhere right now, staring out a window, wondering what I did wrong. One 12-year-old girl with a phone and the courage to use it. That's what stood between me and the rest of my life. She shouldn't have had to be that brave. No child should have to be that brave. But she was, and I am here. And that is everything. If this story reached you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stay close to the people who love you honestly, and protect yourself from the ones who calculate what that love might be worth. If you've seen any of this in your own family, comment below. You are not alone, and it is not too late. This is my true story. I'm sharing it because it almost wasn't.